What is the dumbest thing you have ever done while high? Part 2. I don't know about dumbest, but the most memorable experience of being high was this time a friend brought over muffin gummy bears. They were pretty powerful, so we're all very high sitting in my front room and somebody suggests we do nose. So we set up the balloons and for some reason decide to put the Pirates of the Caribbean music on my TV while we do it. So I pass the remote to my friend who sets it up and we start the music and do the balloons. I don't really remember what happened, but we were effete. When I came back to myself, I realized that my TV had been turned to max volume. And this is one that you only ever need at around 15 or so when it goes to 100. I was worried my neighbors would get pissed, so turned to my friend who set it up and told him to turn down the TV like now. He just stared back at me and went, "Dude, you have the remote." And so I did. Apparently I'd sat there turning up the volume, chuckling and saying, "It's Pirates. It's Pirates." I ordered 2 pigs off a Craigslist after a back operation when I was still out of it. What did you do with the pigs? I named them Tofu and Curry and loved them until they dug up and bite through a water pipe in my yard when I wasn't home. So I got rid of them. I had lung surgery last month and ordered things. Mostly clothing, but I'm still getting things in the mail I don't remember ordering. I may have even ordered a Jim Pickens poster from Call Me Kevin, according to my credit card bill. I was scrolling through my phone settings to find some music. That's not as funny as your comments, but that thing confused me. I once tried to call a friend of mine while I was on muffing. I just kept pressing 7 for a few minutes, thinking that is how it works. Marty seems like a real 7 kinda guy. I'll call him. Pressing 7 until your dialer hits the character limit. Marty. How the hell are ya? Dial tone. This had me in tears. I get fairly paranoid when I smoke. Once I was smoking with a coworker and his roommate and I realized I was very high. My first thought was I can't let them know I am high. I realized shortly after that they were also high, so thusly I couldn't let them know how high I was. The logical course of action was to walk an hour home. On the way home I was going to stop at Tim Hortons and get a coffee to try and balance me out. As I approached the door I realized they may notice I am high and inform the authorities. So I left. I saw a cop car go past and decided they were looking for me. I go to my bed and lay down mentally preparing for my life as a fugitive. Only to realize I am in my late 20s, muffins are legal in Canada, and the people I was smoking with wouldn't have cared that I was super high. My uncle got so paranoid while high that he fled into the hills around LA to avoid the cops that he knew were after him. He then got tired and turned himself in. The police were extremely confused. I wonder how many times on average people do this, like turn themselves in for crimes that they either weren't wanted for or don't even exist. That must always be hilarious to cops. Like stealing a balloon on Free Balloon Day. It sounds dumb until you really start to think about it, but the first time I did muffins I did quite a bit, so I was tripping for almost 15 hours straight. In the middle of it I went on a rant about doors and walls. I went into great detail about how I thought that walls were a thing of the past and got upset that we haven't converted all walls to doors by now. You want a wall? Close the door. You decide that you're tired of that one wall? Open the door. And I bet it just made so much sense at the time. It makes sense sober. Thought I lost my 3D vision, so walked around touching things to make sure they were still 3D. I want what you had that day. My friend and I were high while switching classes in high school. I started moving my arms in a circular motion and I told her I feel like a train. She walked behind me, doing the same thing, and we were both whispering chugga chugga chugga. Coincidentally, this was also the last time I smoked. Good times. This is so cute. several grams of muffins in. I go to use the bathroom. In my home the bathroom was by the back door just off the kitchen, the door to the bathroom facing the back door, and the mirror on the opposite side of the wall to the living room. This is important to the story. I pee and go to leave the washroom and turn to see the door melting. My wisdom tells me that I should use the other door, the one in the mirror, so I turn to the guy in the mirror and ask to use his door. He politely refuses. I inform him of my logic in that his door goes straight to the living room and my door is melting. Again he refuses. You can't go through this door, he says. I plead with him, trying to make my point from logic, and this goes on for several minutes. I then finally turn to the melting door with a fine then, and as I open the door I realize my mistake. Making my way into the living room, my family and friends are laughing hysterically as they were listening to me argue with myself in the mirror. A really similar thing happened to me on my first time on muffins. When my friends found me, I was in the bathroom in the dark and had been talking to myself for probably a good 10 minutes. Because of the mirrors in there and a few random lights in the dark, it started to look like I was in one of those infinity mirrors and just floating in space. I remember chanting over and over again, "I want a refund," referring to the muffins because I didn't expect them to be that intense. On vacation in California with my brothers and some friends, and we were all helping make dinner. It was some Bomber's bacon mac and cheese. My job was to chop up the bacon. Well, I ate 2 muffins at the beginning of dinner prep, and by the time the bacon was done in the oven, I was the one fully baked. I spent an eternity tearing the bacon into tiny pieces by hand and complaining how hot it was the whole time. Only when I was finished did somebody suggest I should have used a knife. Back in the day I used to read a lot. This was before phones were very good. Now I read Reddit a lot instead of books. I had been reading for a while that day and was over halfway through this great paperback novel. I went to get something from the kitchen, and when I came back I couldn't find my book. I looked everywhere and just couldn't find it. I was so bummed. It didn't turn up that day. It was like 3 days later that I went to the kitchen for some ice and opened the freezer. There was my book in the freezer door. You're Joey. 4 of us walk through the local McDonald's drive-thru in our invisible car. We got refused. The funny part was when my mate went inside after to get his food, he said to the server that we just got refuse in our invisible car, and she went and got the manager. Took a couple of minutes for they to notice what he was actually complaining about. Did that twice and it worked both times. It was one of those McDonald's where only the drive-thru is open at night. Trying to text my brother where my phone was. I spent like a full 15 minutes searching for my backpack. While wearing my backpack, I was stuck in a bathroom for half an hour because someone locked the door. It was me. I locked the door from the inside. Believed in school, went to college, got a career. Never again. Damn, how long did that high last? A kid in my dorm prided himself on how long he could go without being sober, generally measuring in days, sometimes weeks. At the same time, he maintained a 4.0 GPA. He was ridiculously smart, and depressed. Eventually, he quit drinking, picked up an additional major, and graduated a year early. Back when I was in college I took this science fiction literature class, and one day our professor said she was going to do a night screening of Moon if we wanted to come watch. I had heard great things about that movie, so I definitely wanted to go, and so did my girlfriend and a couple of other friends of mine. Before going, my friends and I were smoking a bunch of muffins and watching Futurama. The last episode we watched was the late Philip J. Fry, which include this scene in the opening of Bender singing. That song got really stuck in my head and I kept singing it to myself throughout the episode. We smoke one last muffin and head to go see the movie. The screening was going to be in this small classroom auditorium, and we sat kind of near the middle to get the best view. There were some technical issues that the teacher couldn't figure out, and there were like 3 other kids from my class trying to help her out with it. I was so stoned and really bored, so I leaned over to my girlfriend and started quietly singing Hambone to her. Or so I thought. She slugs me in the arm and tells me to be quiet because everyone is looking. Apparently, I was singing it much louder than I thought I was, and everyone was indeed looking at us, and all I could do was laugh. My girlfriend struggled to hold back her laughter too now, and my buddies that had come with us joined in. Now it was super obvious that we were all completely stoned, laughing at pretty much nothing. Thank you for watching this video. If you want more Reddit content like this, please subscribe and like this video. I guess I will see you in the next one.